What is good, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Today we're going to be doing another part to our Unforgotten Album series, and we are going to be doing 1990. Yes, as we know, 1990. Satan knows time is getting short, and he has to destroy God's greatest gift to the music world, and that is hair metal. And in 1990, we only had one more year of before the all the no fun music started happening, getting mainstream and stuff. So I got three more choices here for you guys to carry on the torch, to have fun with these albums, and to keep them not so forgotten anymore. And these three are somewhat forgotten in the rock and metal world, especially in the hair metal world. And one did go gold now, and the other three kind of really did nothing even to this day. Now, if you want to know who the hell you're listening to, that's fair. I'm Trevor Krash Knight, and you are here on the Crash Course Metal Show, where we like to bring all the forgotten and unknown albums and bands from rock and metal throughout the whole genre. But like I said, today we are doing 1990, another part to 1990 of the hair metal forgotten albums. So let us jump into our first one here. And that is going to be none other than guitar great, guitar god of hair metal. And that is going to be Lynch Mob's debut album, Wicked Sensation. Now, what else can I say here about this album that you guys don't kind of know already about George Lynch? Now, George Lynch does come from Dokken, and that is his most well-known band that he was in. And then he ends up going to do solo stuff, Lynch Mob stuff as well. And now this is the end October of 1990, and he gets together Mick Brown, the drummer from Dokken as well. He joins in. You also get Ani Logan as well on vocals for this album. And then you also have Anthony Espinito, which is really good on bass on this album. Now, this album here, though, you did get a couple singles off of this, which you did get the title track, which did reach to number 31 on the singles chart. And then you also had River of Love, which actually charted higher, and that went to like 19 or 20. And two great songs. The title track is absolutely great. Needs to be heard. If you listen to one Lynch Mob song, I would say that is probably the one song that you do need to hear. If you don't hear any other songs from Lynch Mob, whole catalog. And but this is an interesting album because I kind of expected that this would have done a little better. To my knowledge, it did not really chart on the top 200 Billboard chart. It did not go gold or anything like that, which is kind of strange in its own right, just because like you would think people would know who George Lynch is just from how big Dokken was. Now, yes, we can argue that Dokken wasn't necessarily in like the Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Poison, possibly like in that tier of, especially of the late 80s and going into 1990, even really 1991 here, a couple months short of 1991 when this album gets released. So with this album, I got one of the big standouts for me though is I love George Lynch's guitar tone throughout the 80s. He is one of those guitar players' tones that you know exactly who it is when you hear it, and he does have one of the distinct tones of the 80s that kind of shaped the 80s hair metal sound. And also too, on this album, George, now if you guys have followed the channel here, you know how much I love the debut album of Vinnie Vincent and just love the actual just crazy shit that Vinnie does on that. Like it's just chaos, uncontrolled chaos, just every which way on the guitar, solos everywhere. Now with Wicked Sensation here, George Lynch is somewhat similar, but I kind of put it in the other side though and say it's a controlled chaos. There are solos. Some of the shit that like I had this album since I was like a senior in high school. So what is that? 12 plus years now or so. And when I still listen to this album, I'm still like, how is George doing this shit? Like there's solos on top of solos, but it's all controlled. It all sounds really good, even to like your normal listener. Like it won't be too much. Yes, like Nitro, Vinnie Vincent, like that shit gets wild, and like to your normal listener, they'll be like, "What the hell am I listening to?" But with Lynch Mob, I think there's a certain amount of controlled demolition, if you will, to George is playing. Like if you look at some like clips of him in the studio for this album, and they show clips of him doing the solos, like it's absolutely crazy. Like every time I see that video come on my feed or whatever, I gotta just take a minute to watch it because it impressed me every single time, and I find new love for this album. Now, yes, Wicked Sensation. That is almost 60 minutes long, 57 minutes, which is technically a long album. Now, could you argue and say make it an 11 or 10 track album and it would be really good? I would say, okay, I can see that. But to me, this album is still a top 30 hair metal album of all time for me, even with 12 tracks and almost a 60 minutes long. So with some of the songs that you need to check out, though, is Wicked Sensation, title track. River of Love, yes, those are the two singles, and they are singles for a reason, which they are really good. But some of the deeper stuff here that I always enjoyed was All I Want. Great solo in that as well. And also No Better Roses, which is kind of like an upbeat. Like if I could have seen that being a single just because of how like mainstream kind of sounding, like sing along type deal. The chorus is real good, and even the ballads on here. I mean, you could argue kind of All I Want is a little bit of a ballad too, but She's Evil But She's Mine, really good. Rain is like a mid-tempo kind of drawn out feel. Through These Eyes is even good. That's a ballad. Uh, just good. This is now. I will say, do not listen to the 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary imagined Wicked Sensation that George put out for the anniversary. And when I listen to that, no one, even my worst enemies, I wouldn't say, hey, go check this out to put in their ears.
Look like garbage.
That album, it's kind of like what Rings of Power is doing to the good name of J.R.R. Tolkien or The Lord of the Rings. Absolutely horrible. I could not get through one song on that album, and I had to turn it off. It was, but what the weird comparison is to that is there's no one on Rings of Power TV show from Amazon. Like no one's still like J.R. Tolkien, the author, isn't alive to produce this, and no one from the Lord of the Rings trilogy is like back and like writing this TV series. And so that's not even really a good comparison because George Lynch is on this reimagining, and man, it is not good. But we're not here to talk about the reimagine and the remastering and reissue. We are here to talk about the original Wicked Sensation, which is a top 30 hair metal album for me, and it needs to be known about that this album is out here now. Yes, Dokken has survived, throughout the years, and people like George Lynch will always be survived, and remembered for Dokken. So like this album won't be so forgotten because of that, I think. But nonetheless, like not a lot of people talk about this album like they should. This is really good. A little bit of bluesiness in here. George goes crazy on some of these songs. Every solo on this album, every song has an absolutely great solo, but melodic though too at the same time. Like I said, the best way I could describe this album is just a controlled chaos guitar wise, and then Ani sounds really good, brings a different dimension than say Don Dokken would. And this album really rivals a lot of the Dokken albums for me from the original run, from the 80s. This really rivals it. And like I said, it's a top 30 hair metal album for me. So guys, please check out Wicked Sensation.
Hey guys, my name is Lorraine Lewis from Femme Fatale, and you are watching and listening and learning from the Krash Kourse Metal Show with Trevor Krash Knight. Check it out. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going a little bit across the pond here to a UK band, from England, and that is going to be Jagged Edge. So Jagged Edge, Fuel for Your Soul. Like this is a little weird. Now, this is the newest album from these three albums that I picked up. I just recently picked it up probably 6 months or so ago from Jason from Wrath of Typhon in our video where he gave me he came across like this absolute, I guess, gold mine basically of like hair metal type stuff that I just didn't have in the collection. This is one, and I didn't know about these guys until Jason gave me this album. And I gotta say, it was certainly missed in my collection because it is absolutely awesome. So first and foremost, this album did not go gold, did not do no certifications, didn't make any kind of billboard single wise or anything like that. But that does not take away how great that, like, I was super impressed with this album. Great vocals, great guitar playing. Like the guitar player here, Myke, he is somewhat of he was praised. He was praised for his guitar work back in the day here, and I can certainly see it. It is really good. Like these songs have a maturity to it. Like it doesn't sound like a band's first album. So there's another album with 12 tracks on it, but when I'm listening to this, I'm like, they gotta go by fast because my attention's kept. There's the lyrics are pretty well written. And like I said, there's a little bit of maturity here to it. The title track is a little bit on the ballady side, but more mid tempo, which is really, really good, heartfelt type stuff. I just like, you know, Liar, Out in the Cold, the first couple tracks, really good. There's a melody to some of these songs, like a catchiness to it, like that is just so good. I cannot speak enough about this album. Even like some of the songs that aren't as good as like the top here on this album, still listens to it. I still listen. There's not one song I think that does not make the iPod. Every time a song comes on from this band, from this album, it stays on. I don't skip it because you got great lyrics, great rhythm, good solos too. Nothing I would say certainly like what we were talking with Lynch Mob. Nothing really like that, I would say, but solos that are perfect for the song, that are needed for the song, and I think it's just really, really good stuff. Now, they did quickly disband after this album in 1991, and obviously because of what was going on in 1991, the change of the music industry and of the scene. But I gotta say, guys, for a couple of the songs, check out the title track if you want something a little slower, but also check out Liar, check out Hell Ain't a Long Way, and also You Don't Love Me. Like, there's not really a bad track. I would say this is an album that kind of falls into the Dokken Back for the Attack, where like there's not truly like one single that I would say like really push on somebody, but as an album overall, when you listen to it the whole way through, it's better. It brings up everything, when you listen to it the whole way through instead of just picking one song out for somebody and saying, here, check this out, because this is absolutely great. But nonetheless, though, guys, each song I like I said, doesn't get skipped. Really good stuff. Just a forgotten band and a forgotten album. But like I said, they only had this one album and they went and did their own, different kind of projects. They split up. But yeah, it just was the wrong time. And, and that's another thing too. Was there that in the later stages of hair metal, was there really that many English bands? Like that's a good question. Like that I'm going to have to look through here and see like, what because that like you got the early wave of British heavy metal, in the early 80s. And then it seems like as time goes on, once you get to the early 90s, like I don't really hear too much. Yeah, sure, there are some London Choir Boys, Dogs D'Amour, shit like that. And obviously Jagged Edge. But like it seemed like it was mainly a US thing at the time and not much was coming out of England. So but either way, guys, check out Fuel for Your Soul from Jagged Edge UK. Really, really good stuff there. All right, so now we are going to the most known album of these three albums here, and that is going to be from New Jersey boys, Trickster, with their debut album. Now, a lot of people know Trickster from they had 3 minor hits on this album. So you had One in a Million, you had Surrender, and then you also had Give It To Me Good, which I would say probably is the most known song from Trickster. And, and as I'm recording this now, Jack Ponte did just pass away. And we want to give a shout out to Jack Ponte because he did a lot of great stuff for the later 80s, this 80s in general, with Babylon AD, Baton Rouge. He did some stuff with Alice Cooper, and he did a couple songs here with Trickster. And, great writer, just had a feel for everything. So we want to give a quick little shout out to them or to him. And But no, with this album here, and with just Trickster in general, you had this like in hair metal now at this time, like 1990, or you had like a couple different. Well, once we start splitting hairs in hair metal, you know, you have like the sleaze metal that's starting up, that's starting to catch on. Got that blues metal going on.
Okay, fellas, let's try one with that Memphis sound. Deep inside my heart, take one.
And you have bands that are like getting more on the poppier side of things, or more glammy too. Because like when I have Trickster in my you know batch of albums or bands that are like Trickster, I have bands like Pretty Boy Floyd, Tough, you know, bands kind of like the first album Poison, like with that kind of feel to their songwriting, to their sound, to like their lyrics, like to what they talk about, like high school kids. That's kind of like where I'm at with Trickster. Like I put them in that. Now I will say I will take Trickster over like Tough and Pretty Boy Floyd for the most part, most times. And this album is really good. And I'm not shading it at all because I do think Trickster is a really good band, but just not, I just tend to visit the sleaze, the bluesy hair metal, like the more mature stuff as time is going on than say the Tricksters of the world, and Toughs and stuff like that, which, like I said, they got great songs as well. It's great when you have a subgenre that's so well rounded like that, because you have stuff for the younger style or the younger fans, and then you have stuff for the fans that are maturing. So you like I said, you had like high school kids, that age range up until about maybe like 2021 that could really enjoy Trickster and see them in the future with them growing up. But then you also had, bands like Spread Eagle, Love Hate, bands like that, Jet Boy, Junkyard, The Graveyard Train, bands that had that feel to them. For the 21 and over fans, 21 to 30-year-olds, that were kind of like out in the real world, like really feeling, and I think that's kind of where hair metal needed to go. Like, because you had Trickster and those type of bands that were kind of for like I said, the younger crowd. But I think at the time, mainstream, just your casual listener, didn't want to deal with that. They wanted something a little bit more edgy. They wanted something a little bit more raw. And I think that's what ultimately ended up giving Alternative the foot in the door. Because like like I said, if you had, Love Hate and Spread Eagle, Vane, bands that were really sleazy on that side of things, if you gave them a little bit more of the inside track as far as like MTV and radio rotation, I think it could have been a little bit of a different story. I think maybe you could have had a little bit more of a mesh after 1991, after 1992. Just a thought. I mean, at the end of the day, it might not, the music industry, the record companies, at the end of the day, did, if they wanted to put their foot down, whatever they say goes for the most part. And so that's an interesting thought. But let's talk more about this debut album because it is good. It is a good album. Now, you do have 12 tracks. This album did go gold. And so it's not, I would say, totally forgotten, because like sometimes we do add some gold albums or even maybe a platinum album if it just totally got overlooked or just did not get the recognition over time that it should have. It kind of like people picked it up and just dropped it. So, even kind of like a Slave to the Grind a little bit, maybe, something like that. But at the same time, you got, like I said, the three singles here, Give It To Me Good, Surrender, and One in a Million. Good songs. That's a really good ballad, is Surrender. I really enjoy that ballad. And then also here you had Line of Fire, which did pretty well in its own right. Heart of Steel is cool, Only Young Ones. I dig that because, like, as you get older, you kind of think, oh yeah, man, I'm only this age once, so let's don't stay at home so much, or like go out and have a little bit of fun, don't be a homebody so much, or whatever the deal may be, however, wherever your mind goes when you're hearing these lyrics, So Play Rough is kind of fun, kind of gives me a little bit of a Play Dirty feel off of Look What the Cat Dragged In from Poison. A little bit that feel, maybe what they were trying to get at there, but that's kind of what I think, but great song nonetheless. I don't know, it is what it is at the end of the day, because they did kind of get a little bit more mature on their second album with Here. But at that time, though, it was almost 1993. It was like only a couple months short of 1993. So like it could have been the best album ever, but it just was not going to get the play. It just was not going to get the recognition. And which, I don't know which one I actually like better between those two, because I bought both of these out, I guess the Trickster albums, roughly around the same time. And, it never did too much for me. Now, yes, there is great stuff on there, but, I always tend to go towards the debut more than the second, I would say. But I'm going to have to revisit that because nonetheless, it's good stuff. Steve Brown, good guitar player. I enjoy his playing, his solos. I love the stuff that he does in Tokyo Motor Fist. I absolutely love him and Ted as a duo there in that band. Really good stuff there. Possibly even better than the Trickster stuff, to be quite honest with you. But no, I mean, I like Trickster. They were from Jersey, so somewhat local guys. I mean, somewhat close to me, a couple hours or so. I just think they did well. I mean, because they were picking up traction. Now, if they released this in 89, 88, they could have possibly even went platinum. And who knows, maybe even Here could have went gold at some point, being released in 1990 instead of 1992, late 1992. So, that Trickster is one of those what if bands. If they would have kind of got out just 1 or 2 years early and they were on MCA, which it's very hard to get any kind of traction under MCA because that label, they had so many bands and so many bands died. Like, Spread Eagle was one that just were so good and just died, and another one, I guess you could say, is Pretty Boy Floyd, I believe, was on MCA as well. A shit ton of bands were on MCA and that did not get the recognition that they deserved. So that's no surprise there, because this could have possibly even been bigger than gold. So I don't know, guys, but no, please do check out some of the deeper tracks on here. Line of Fire, Heart of Steel, and then also Play Rough. I do really like Play Rough, one of my favorites over time here. As time keeps going on, I do dig that a lot. You're at 56 minutes though as well. 12 tracks. You could possibly take 1 or 2 tracks off and be a little bit stronger, a little bit more crisp of an album. I think that is what kind of hurts it for me at the end of the day, is just 1 or 2 tracks too long, I think. But nonetheless, though, guys, it's still a forgotten album that does need to get looked at a little bit more. And it just kind of like put your biases aside, because Trickster is kind of like a joke, like as far as like if someone says, "Oh man, I like Trickster," listen to Trickster. Sometimes people are, what, like what, Trickster sucks, No, we're not here for that. Trickster's a shit. Still check them out, even though they are more on the fun side of things of 1990. Pretty Boy Floyd type deal and tough, along the lines of that style. But nonetheless, though, Trickster, the debut album, check it out. All right, so guys, so that wraps up this episode and this part for 1990. So we had Trickster debut, we also had Jagged Edge, Feel for Your Soul, and then we had Wicked Sensation from the one and only Lynch Mob and George Lynch. So let me know in the comments what you guys think.
Talk to me.
These 3 albums, and tell me some of the forgotten albums that you really enjoy from this year, 1990. And until next time, guys, if you haven't clicked the subscribe button, what are you waiting for? Hang out with us, party with us. This is what we like to do. We like to bring the stuff that you forgot and everyone else forgot in the rock and metal world, whether that be a band, an album, even songs. We like to let shit come back in the rotation of things, of people's Spotify's, people's collections, whatever that may be. We like to do that here. And until next time, guys, stay out of that collateral damage. And if you guys enjoyed this part for 1990, check out this one right here.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.